What's up, everyone, and welcome to Project XTalk Extra, our weekly podcast supplement where we discuss random topics that didn't quite make the main podcast. If you like that, make sure to go check out our main podcast, our reviews on our YouTube channel, or audio services. And you can also head over to any podcast service, preferably Apple, and leave us a review, a rating, and we will read it out live on the show. If I see them in time, you can tweet them at me as well at the Muffin Mon. But today we're here to get into the spooky season, it being Halloween time in October, and go over our favorite horror games. Everyone's watching horror movies. I know I am going to see the new Halloween tomorrow. By the time you guys listen to this, I will have seen it already, but it is tomorrow by the time we're recording. I'm super excited. I love Halloween. I love the spooky season. I love getting scared. I'm not a huge fan of horror games, though, so we're going to see what my list. It might be a little interesting. I got my buddy Tom here to help me out. Tom, you got some horror games for us?
I got a couple, and I think my list is varied enough that it's going to make it a little interesting. I'm really hoping we don't have the same games on here.
Well, if we do, then it's clearly a good recommendation. So we're gonna go through the list and make a good, give you guys some games to check out. You can play with your partner. You can turn the lights off, really get scared, and enjoy your time this Halloween. Tom, I'm gonna start off with you. What's your number one game? We're not ranking them, but what's your first pick for a good spooky game for people to check out?
All right, so I want to start off actually scary, and I'm going to start with Visage. This game came on Game Pass probably like 2 weeks ago. It is Series X and S enhanced. Also available on the One. So there's that. The game is really scary. So you're in a house. All right, let me just start off at the beginning of the game real quick. I just want to preface is like how dark is going to get immediately. Immediately when you start off the game, you're stood with a guy shooting at a woman and two children, and then he kills himself. And then you wake up and you're in that house. I have not yet beaten this game. I'm assuming that the character I'm playing is the guy who killed everyone. Mm-hmm. And the game is creepy as hell, dude. Like, you walk through rooms, the light bursts. You have to find light bulbs to replace them with. You have to find candles around and put them on the candle locations and light them up. And they deplete. They don't stay up forever. The game is creepy as hell. Again, if you go to the basement in this game, you want to be actually scared. The basement is the scariest part, dude. It's a walking simulator. The sounds is crazy. The creaking sounds. There's paranormal stuff that goes on. There's a mirror that just starts popping in and out of random places, and it's creepy as hell. This game's more of a psychological horror, so there's no actual monsters, even though I hear someone's footsteps in the attic. So I have no idea what's up there just yet.
Oh, that's a good kind of horror. I was looking to check it out, but then I saw it was first person and it's on Reddit. People were saying how scary it was, and I kind of chickened out. So maybe I got a few weeks left. Maybe I'll make time for it. But my first game, and it's kind of I'm gonna do a split because they're basically the same game, just reskinned. Dead by Daylight and Friday the 13th. I don't know if you can even play Friday the 13th anymore, but these games are not scary because of the story, because there isn't a story. These are multiplayer focused games. What I find scary about these is your feeling of impending doom. So for anyone that doesn't know, you basically take on the role of either the killer. So Dead by Daylight has a bunch of different killers, or you play as Jason in Friday the 13th. And then you're tasked with finding the survivors. And it's usually 4 people around either Camp Crystal Lake or in one of the maps in Dead by Daylight. And they have tasks to do to try to escape, either by boat, running through a gate. There's an escape hatch. So they have different things. They have different ways to escape. You basically go around stalking them, hunting them down, killing them. If you're playing as the survivor in these games, it is terrifying because usually there's some sort of audio cue that clicks in if they see you or they're near. It gives you a little heartbeat audio cue, really get you pumping. So you're trying to do this stuff, you're trying to be quiet, not make noise, not set off any of the generators in Dead by Daylight. And then when you do, you're like, shit, 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 I got to get out of here. I got to run. I got to hide. These games are scary and fun, a lot of fun with friends. So I would definitely recommend checking these out for the Halloween season.
Dead by Daylight's on my list, so I'm just
Okay.
going to talk about that one next. You already pretty much said everything. I do want to just add as well that every survivor in this game is varied. They all have their own special abilities. So it's fun to be able to coordinate with your friends, and that extra stress with the monster or the villain, which I want to say is extremely varied. There's a lot of movie villains in this game. I believe Ghostface is one of them as well.
Yeah, yes.
Leatherface, just a bunch of them. It's really good and nostalgic, and it's scary as hell when they come out after you, grab you, and put you on a hook, and you just sit there waiting to die.
Yeah, it's definitely terrifying. I think that's a good shout, especially if you're more of a multiplayer focused gamer. You got another one for me, Tom?
So yeah, my last game is Darkest Dungeon.
Okay.
So it's a roguelike, but I classify this one as a horror game. So I looked it up. I looked it up online. They said it's considered a medieval horror. So I was like, oh, okay, that works for me. I guess horror is a varied genre. It's a roguelike game where it's with turn-based combat. The preface of the game is you go through dungeons and you collect new party members to join with you. So not every single party member could work together properly, and that's what makes this game a little bit more interesting. For example, you might have a party member who's like, let's say, who's extremely strong and probably kill most of the monsters that you fight against. But if you pair him with another party member that's there, he becomes like a wimp. He's scared. He freaks out, and he might even attack his own party members at that point. This game has a lot of psychological horror in that regard, and a lot of stress factors that you see with colliding personalities. The game is extremely fun in that regard. Again, you want to choose your party carefully and go through the dungeons as stress free as possible. Like, one thing you don't want to do is don't take too many chances. Don't stay in the dark. If you take chances, there's a chance that something might come at your party, and literally the dude might die of a heart attack, and you lose a party member that you invested like tens of hours on, possibly. Be careful. Party coordination is
Wow.
everything in this game. Don't mess that up, or the game is going to be extremely difficult.
That's interesting. I've never even heard of this game. Wow. Okay. All right. Neat premise. Certainly not one I expected to be on our list of horror games here. I got a few more before I go into our viewer submissions because I did ask on Twitter what people thought. So I said Until Dawn, which is only on PlayStation. That's more of a walking sim. You have to make choices. If you've played the Dark Pictures anthology, it's the same developer, same type of game. I also had Man of Medan on the list because I enjoy those types of games. They're more jump scary. There is a little atmosphere, but usually all the scares come like jump scare. I feel like things popping out, people pop in to scare you. It has some ambiance, some ominous music. I like those style of games. I know they're not for everyone, though. The more narrative, walking simulator style games. I also have the medium on here. I don't particularly think it's scary. I do think it's a good game, which is why I put it on the list. And if you're just looking for something to ease yourself into it, I think that's just a quick game. It's only like 8 hours. There is a monster that some people might find scary. It depends on your level of comfort, but this is certainly not one I think it's too scary. And then my last one is Prey, the 2017 one from Arcane. I think Prey is super scary. It's the survival first person shooter RPG style game. I tried it on Game Pass when it came after the acquisition. Those mimics hiding, they're little black creatures that can become any object, and then they'll jump out and attack you at any point. There's other big enemies walking around that will murder your ass. It's very scary. It's a hard game. I do think it's a good game. You might like it, but I would check that out if you're not looking for something that isn't straight horror and scary game.
All right, then real quick, I'm gonna add one.
Yeah, go for it.
That's not really scary. This one's actually a reverse horror game where you play the monster. It's
Oh,
Carrion.
oh
It's
yeah,
a
I've heard about this.
yeah, it's a Metroidvania game. So it's interesting to add on the list. I actually had it on my list, but I removed it because I was like, is it horror? It's a reverse horror game, but it's still loads of fun to be had there. And watching your monster grow as you get different abilities and you just start consuming people. It has its own special horror.
That's a good shout. I've heard about that game. I also asked on Twitter what people would think. You can follow us over on Twitter and answer questions to be featured on the show at Project XTalk. Lucas Agan replied, "I love Little Nightmares." And as someone that was playing Little Nightmares last week, it is creepy. There's definitely some dark themes in there. I just didn't like the game. I uninstalled it. I got to like halfway through chapter 2 and I was like, I can't play this game anymore. So I understand people that do like it. It's not for me, but it is a good shout, especially because it's very cheap right now. Um, we have Y2 Boo, who is from another podcast, the BXG podcast. He says Inside, Limbo, and Castlevania. So he's not going pure horror games either. He's doing more of the themes. Like Castlevania has a lot of vampires, obviously, is the big theme there. Good shout, certainly. And then finally, we have Luke Lore, the insipid ghost himself. Shout out XEP. He says Resident Evil 4, 7, and 8. Definitely agree with 4. I could not play that game very long. I think it's terrifying. And I hear 7 or 8 are very scary games, especially 8.
I don't think it's really scary. I
No?
think
You don't think?
no, it's just the right amount of scare. I think you can pull through them
Okay.
personally.
He also adds Alan Wake is a recent spook fest, which I do think Alan Wake is has a tone. I don't know if it's scary, but it might fall along the same lines as like the medium.
I think if you're a kid watching a bunch of ghosts come up and you have to put a flashlight, you're going to be a little scared.
Yeah, okay. And then he adds Pumpkin Jack is great for the season. Pumpkin Jack is a 2D or a 3D platformer reminiscent of the PlayStation 2 era. It looks like a lot of fun. If I get some time, I might pick that one up because that is a Kevin ass game if I've ever seen one. So that's all I got. Those are our recommendations. If you're looking for Halloween games, something to scare you, scare someone you're playing with. I know a lot of these games, just being in the room and watching, you can have a lot of fun. Anything to add before we head on out here, Tom? You're muted.
Enjoy the season, watch some spooky movies while you're at it, and enjoy the spooky games that we've recommended on this list today. But I have nothing else to add.
Well said. Until next time, guys, I've been Kevin. You can follow me at the Muffin Mon. And Tom, where can they find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at Alpaca Tom.
And we will see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.